Hello and welcome to week 3 of this series. Today we're going to be looking at the Innsbruck KOM Afterparty course, and let's get right into the footage. So as you can see, it's sped up quite a bit again. I'm on another training ride, but as we pass the start pens on the left hand side there, it is pretty quickly into the lap counter at this start-finish line. The course here tends to be very flat and have pretty high speeds. It is an event-only course though, so you need to either wait for the Innsbruck courses to be available on as one of the worlds, or you can schedule a meetup on Innsbruck Ring, follow the ring course for 3 laps, and then just up ahead you'll see a section where it asks you to turn right. You'll hit forward there instead, and that will take you to the KOM for the final of this race. This race does end at the top of the KOM, so it is important to make sure you have enough energy to finish up there. So you see we turned right there. If you went forward, it brings you directly to the KOM within a couple hundred meters. Bike selection on this course tends to be pretty straightforward. You're going to want to be pretty aero because the laps tend to go really quickly. Lap times sitting around 10 to 12 minutes at the A level, probably up to about 15 to 16 minutes at lower levels, which overall is still pretty quick. You'll see here that I am not going to be hitting these sprint targets on this training ride, but it is a pretty good course if you are going to be looking at sprinting. So here we are approaching the first time up the leg snapper. You're going to have to do this climb 3 times. The fastest time listed on Strava is 34 seconds. Most people will probably take a minute or two to get up and over it. This is really the only point that a pure climber will have to attack on the first 3 laps, to try to put out some time up and over, but this descent down the back side of it can cause groups to come back together with heavier riders putting out some power, as long as they can make it over that second little climb that a lot of people tend to forget about. After that point, we're going to come out, it levels off, and you'll see the sprint banner starting just there. It's a pretty long sprint, but for the most part it won't come into play unless you are in a points race like the Zwift Racing League. If that's the case, it can be a good place to get counterattacks through as people try to take the points on the individual sprint there. And we're almost done this lap. At the end of the lap, you'll see that we speed up the footage even more, just to get through the other 2 laps. It's the exact same for both of them. And so you can get a little boring just watching it happen. So right there, if you hit straight, you go to the KOM. Here's a pretty good place for people to get dropped on. It's a 1 to 2% climb for a pretty long time, so you want to be careful watching that. And then as we go over that bridge, we hit the leg snapper for the second time. Try to get up and over it. Now, an alternative to going as aero as you can for your bike selection is going to be to take your chances on making it with a main group to the final climb, in which case you're probably going to want something a little lighter, but I wouldn't suggest going with a pure climber's setup just because it will be extremely difficult to make it to the final climb, and the final climb isn't straight uphill the whole time. It pitches up but has a lot of flat to it as well, so having an aero bike for those flat sections can still help. At lower levels, this means that you're probably going to want to be running the specialized Alley Sprint with either the Envies or the DT Swiss wheels. Higher levels, you're probably going to have your own personal preference. Cervelo S5 with the DT Swiss wheels is what I use on this course. Alternatively, if you have the Tron bike, that is probably going to be the fastest bike on this course because it's the best balance between aero and lightweight. And you see here, we're going to hit straight. We go through that roundabout. And right here, it pitches up a bit. You can have some attacks going off into that roundabout just before we start the KOM there. This KOM fastest climb stands at 10 minutes and 41 seconds. Most groups will probably be looking at finishing it between 15 minutes and 30 minutes. It'll probably help if you don't do what I'm doing to climb this and hold a pretty steady effort up instead of doing the surging VO2 max efforts that I'm supposed to be working on hitting and failing to do. If you watch the right hand corner there, you can see that the gradient is pitchy, like I said earlier. We're getting some red numbers, but never for more than a couple hundred meters at a time before it levels out back into the lower yellow, into the white 3, 2, 1%. For that reason, you're going to want to try to stay with whatever group you're in as you're going up this climb on the pitchier parts, because once you're in the flat part, if you need to, you can sit into that group and recover, or you can push the pace on that flat part with the group being able to go faster because of the aerodynamic benefit than you would as a solo rider. And as you see, we're going to be a little past the halfway point in this climb here. The highest percentage is around the middle of this climb, where you see the long stretch in red numbers there. And it's now dropping back down to a handful of percent, pitching back up. And you see the fastest climb on the day when I had done this was 32 minutes. And there we go, and that's where you end, is just as you come over the top of the climb. And that's it. That's all of the route. If you're looking to not have climbers with you on that final climb, you're going to want to push the pace on those first 3 laps around in the Innsbruck ring course. If you're a climber, you're going to want to attack them on the leg snapper to try to wear out those bigger riders or gap those bigger riders. Or you're going to try to sit in and really put the hurt on in the final Innsbruck KOM climb. As always, if you have questions, comments, or concerns, drop them below. Give the video a like if you found it useful. Subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss any more of these route recons. And have a wonderful day, and hopefully good luck with those races.